Now,
Hi.
I thank you so much for meeting with me. I'm so grateful. I've been watching your videos for a while, so I was really glad to hear back from you.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm honored. I'm honored. How are you today, honey?
I'm doing really well, thank you.
How
Um,
is your paper? How is your paper coming along?
it's coming along. You're actually my second participant so far. I'm still trying to get a few more people to interview. But
Okay.
so far so good. I ordered a copy of your book. I haven't received it yet, but hopefully soon I'll receive it and I can include it as one of the resources for my
Yay.
study.
Thank you. I would appreciate that very much. I would appreciate I have, I have godchildren that I'm sure would help you, and I can put you in contact with them if you want to.
I would really appreciate that. That would be great.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'll definitely put you in contact with at least two of them that are crown that I think will be definitely more than down to like speak with you and stuff. Okay. So I'll send you
Okay,
their details when we're done and I'll let them know and all that other stuff. Okay.
wonderful. I really appreciate it.
You're
So
welcome. Okay.
uh, I have been following you for a while. I wanted to know a little bit about your story. Can you tell me a little bit about how you became a practitioner, how you became involved with this religion?
Okay. So I was born and raised in the religion pretty much. Or, I had family when I was born, there was already family who practiced the religion and were already ordained for years. So as a kid born in Cuba, also, it's very common, to see things or to know people who participate in the religion or who are part of the religion. So I always had some sort of interest in it. um, I always definitely have been a very mystical individual and very drawn to like the magical arts and things like that. So I was always into as a kid, just into like there was a lot of things that I would do as a kid. Like I would draw circles with cascarilla on the ground, and then I would sing and dance to the goddess, and I would do all these things. And later on, as I grew up and I became older, I realized, pagan rituals and things like that, and whatever. So I always wanted to also know what was happening behind the white curtain. So I was always very curious about what they were doing and why they were singing and what was happening and the plates clinking together and what was happening. So I always felt very excited to know what was happening behind the white curtain. And at some point, it came when I was around 9. When I was 9 is when I got crowned. But before that, I don't remember exactly at what point something happened or whatever with my mom, and then she only had like her warriors and stuff, and there was some issues with that. And then later on it came out that for health she needed to crown, and I needed to go in with her, because particularly I was having a lot of health issues. Like I would throw up every single day. I was extremely bad, like lactose intolerant, and I would throw up every. Cuba is very different from here because in Cuba you get to like play outside and run around, and all the kids are wild all the time and all stuff. So I would literally be outside playing and doing all the stuff. I would come home, throw up, wash my mouth, and I go back out and continue. That's how used to it I was. And I was super, 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 super skinny also. And so it came out that she needed to crown and that I needed to go in with her for health reasons. And then that's how, my mom and I then got crowned together. So my mom and I are twins in the religion. And that's how I got in it precisely. But I always wanted to be in it. My mom did it more because of
For health reasons.
health reasons than anything. I was a kid, but I was pushing for it either way. I was more excited than she was to go in.
And I wanted to ask, you're initiated as a santero or babalao, or what's your title?
My title is Obaudiate.
I just recently became aware of that title. Could you clarify for me what that means? Because I know
Yeah.
babalao is
Yeah.
more like
Okay. So Babalaos, you can consider them the highest ranking, but it's not the highest ranking. They're just, that's an ego thing that we do, especially for Babalao, for straight men to feel more manly and more whatever, okay?
Mhm.
But Babalaos are considered to be the epitome of a well-behaved male and for divination. It's supposed to be the oracle of Ifa is supposed to be very impartial. I think all the oracles are impartial, but that's what we tend to give to separate the branches or the traditions. Um, Santero is, I can go through all the steps. You want me to start from the beginning, from Malay all the way up?
I'm more or less familiar with those steps, but the Oba Oriate, I'm not super
Okay, so
familiar with.
you have you have Santero, which is anybody who's initiated, and then you have Oba, and the Oba is a title given to the person who leads the ceremonies. Whomever, it could be male or female, but whomever is doing all the singing and the sacrificing and telling everybody else what to do and like giving the instructions and now you do this and now you do that is the Oba, is the one leading the ceremony. Then the title Oba Oriate is composed together when the person leads ceremony and also reads the Dilogun or reads the shells. Oriate is more for is a title given to the person that sits at the mat all the time and is knowledgeable of the oracle and can do good readings and has developed a what's called a fame, not a fame, a reputation for doing caracol readings and stuff like that. So then people put Obaudiate together, meaning that I'll lead the ceremony and read the shells. It's what pretty much that means. But that's just a title. You know, I always prefer just Oba, just because I'm obviously Babal Orisha is the correct title, which means Father Orisha, because I'm other people's godfather. And then Oba is the title when ceremony is being done.
Okay.
Oba means king, and so when the ceremony is being done, then you are the king or the queen of the ceremony, but it really doesn't change anything. It just means you're just telling people what to do, pretty much. And
Okay.
work also.
Thank you for clarifying that for me, because I just recently became aware of that particular title. So I know that you mentioned that you've always been interested in the religion, but the big catalyst there for you and your mother was like health, but it sounded like it was physiological health. What about the mind? What's your opinion about, does the mind play a role in healing as well? And if so, how so?
I do think so. I think I was a kid, okay? So I think that's a question that I think applies more to people as adults. Okay, now that I'm more of a grown up also, as a kid, I was just excited. As an adult, I do feel like the mind plays a role for people. One, I'm not sure that not every time everybody is ready to initiate, although some people do it because they want to or because they have the money or whatever. I do feel like sometimes people think that Ocha is just going to change their entire life from one night to the other, which is not the case. And sometimes people do, I feel like people with weaker minds, no offense to anyone, come seeking power, you know, like more so than mental tranquility. There's a lot of people that come seeking in power to like destroy the enemy and get more money and better positions, and that's not what Ocha is for. I think your mentality has a lot to do with how you go into Ocha and what you gain out of Ocha also. So I do think that the person's and your mentality is also definitely going to influence how you see the Orishas, you know, because there's a lot of times, there's definitely plenty times with Santeros that I've spoken to that I just don't agree. We just don't see eye to eye with like beliefs or what the Orisha stand for or the traits of an Orisha or things like that. And that's all heavily influenced by just the way the person thinks. Obviously, you know, sometimes you make God out to be what you think God should be or is like. And the same thing happens in the religion. And that also, I can give you an example of that just really quick. It's like I've always said to people, like, if you are a racist person, you're going to be a racist priest. Your racism is not going to change just because you initiate it. You know, if you are homophobic, you're going to be a homophobic priestess. If you, whatever the case, if you're a pedophile, you're going to be a pedophile. You know, that's not going to change anything. So, like, the way you go into Ocha, it's going to then reflect your opinions of Ocha, and then it'll give a taste to your house and a taste to your own personal practice of how you're doing. So I do feel like people should be, as adults, I feel like people should approach Ocha more so for mental tranquility and just living a better life than a lot of the other reasons why people um, want to come into Ocha, and also not looking at somebody else's experience as another big human thing, that people look at the other person and then they think that because this happened to them, now this is also going to happen to me if I do it too, which is not the case. That's their chain. You have to focus on your chain.
Okay. Has your understanding of the mind changed since you became a practitioner?
I do think it has changed. I have always been a firm believer in the power of the mind, and I'm an occultist, you know, so I'm naturally just very inclined to understanding my own mind and my own just my own existence, plus everything else around me. I feel like Ocha has definitely made me look a lot more deeper into myself, because I'm very into like esoteric teachings and things like that. There's many other santeros that are not into that. They're santeros, but they're not like religious people. I'm not fanatical, but I am a very religious person, and I've always been very religious, and I've always gone for um mental expansion, enlightenment, and all those other, you know, qualities, I guess. Um, so I feel like as I have grown in Ocha, my mental expansion has also grown, and my understanding of like not just myself but like other people and things like that. For example, my godchildren always give me credit of how patient I am with people and how they can deal with, and I think everything is just fine. Like, I'm normally a very calm individual and very, you know, quiet and very like reserved to myself. And I'm, you know, I tend to get along with people. And then people also tend to confuse that sometimes with weakness. And there is nothing weak about myself nor my personality, because I'm very in your face when I need to be with people. But I feel like as I have gotten older and as I have received more ochas, there have been a lot of things of myself and my personality and my mind that has become more affirmed and or enhanced in myself. So I do feel like my personal mental capacities and understandings have shifted and changed as I have understood the religion more, interpreted the religion internally, and practiced the religion in different ways.
So you mentioned something interesting about how your understanding has changed the more ultra that you've received, because that was my next question of like, how would you describe the effects of patron orishas on the person's mind? Because I've had a lot of clients who I'm a psychotherapist in private practice who will say, oh, I'm a child of so-and-so, and that's why I have these certain traits. Or what are your thoughts on that?
We definitely, okay, so we definitely attach certain traits to different orishas, okay? And even though, like, for example, before the person is marked, before the alaimadoria is pulled or the head is marked to somebody, we tend to do a lot of guessing based on the personality of the person. You know, you're like, oh my gosh, he sounds like Ochung, or he looks like, or whatever, like that. And that is all just guessing until then the oracle says whomever, it's marked to whomever. Then after that, it's a lot easier to notice, because it's very true that you can notice that a lot of children of Yemaya, they're different people, different looks, but a lot of times it's like a lot of very similarities in the personality that are like traits that you're just like, girl, I can tell you're a child of Yemaya. And the same thing will happen with like children of Batala, different people, but then they all act in the same manner, or like it's exhibited. Okay.
Mhm.
And then what happens is that and that's prior also to Cariocha, you already exhibit certain characteristics. You obviously you exhibit many Orisha characteristics, but you do tend to exhibit a few. And then after Cariocha, I feel like because of the connection and the whole ritual and the ache and all that stuff, then the person really begins to, it amplifies what they exhibit out of that Orisha based on gender also, male or female, and personal traits and all that stuff. But the overall energy of the Orisha, you still portray it forward. And it's very easy for you. It's very once you're in the religion, it's not always accurate, but it's very easy to just look at someone who has nothing on, and then you're like, that looks like a child of Chango from over there, and then you ask them and they are, or you look at somebody else and you think that's a child of whomever, because you really do start picking up, and it's I mean, the explanation beyond that is beyond me personally as to how or why that happens. But it is very clear that when you submerge yourself, that a lot of children of Ochun will behave in the same, and that may also be kind of like learned behavior from
Mhm.
us looking at other children of Ochun who are older or something. That can also be psychologically, I don't know, a learned behavior. But prior to Cariocha, a lot of people do exhibit certain traits that then are enhanced after Cariocha also. I find to be very interesting. So your Orisha is always we as a human being are a living manifestation of that Orisha. Okay, so I'm a living manifestation of Ochun, and you will be a living manifestation of whomever. And our lives is the Orisha itself living through us. So that's why we also exhibit characteristics, and that's why there's different patakis and the different avatars or roads and things like that have been different priests or priestesses that have lived a human life, who have made whatever sort of impact in the community, who then become, and their life story gets turned into pataki. So like, let's
Mhm.
say that you're a child of Obatala and I'm a child of Ochun. So then I'm having an issue and I go to you and I, say whatever, and then you help me out and whatever. So then later on, that gets transformed into Ochun, went to Obatala and asked Obatala for help, and then Obatala did this, and you did an and then that becomes a pataki, and that's what we know as stories and things like that. But it was the relationship of humans that have that Orisha energy and how that things. The same thing would happen if I go and I fight somebody else, and then there'll be like, oh, there's this one time Ochun fought Oya, and they, and whatever. And the Pataki begins from that point forward. Okay. But the Orisha, when the Orisha is placed on the person's head, it enhances the connection. So then you definitely exhibit a lot more of the traits of that one Orisha, including also to some degree your parent Ocha also, because your parent Ocha is very influential. I feel like your Alagbatori is a lot more influential in just your destiny and your way of life, and your parenting Orisha is a lot more influential in like your personality, your inner personality, because I have a Ochun crown and I'm really like glamorous at points and I'm not glamorous at other points, but everybody can tell that I have a true crown at every point. However, my father's like Gayu, and that's what I was telling you earlier, that people see me like all calm and all of this, and I'm just like quiet, and I'm normally like, I'm not quiet, but I am compared to other people. Um, and then when people try and cross me, then that's when Agayu pops out, because my attitude, nor like, I always tell people, don't confuse my niceness with weakness, because I'm just naturally nice because I'm aware that I can be like lava and burn everything on its path. So I just try to always be nice. So I feel like the Alakbaturi will reflect on the outside and destiny of the person versus the secondary Orisha parent will
Mhm.
reflect more like internally and characteristics of the person. Because I also feel like I'm a little giant because I'm a short guy, but I have a big, that's what everybody says. I'm a short guy with a really big personality. So I'm like, okay, well, I don't know. I guess I must be a Gayu. I don't know.
That's really interesting. You're the first person so far who has mentioned that you can, because I have mano dorula done, and I was told that I was an omoyemaya. So would you say that, like, if I were to get crowned, that those characteristics would become more prominent or expressed after the fact?
Yes. Okay. See, well, first of all, I don't know you, and this is the first time that we're chatting. Okay. So I can't really tell too much about your personality. However, by your looks and by your things, you seem to be a little more calm. Like my mom, who's also a daughter of Yemaya, but she's very calm. Children of Yemaya tend to be a little more ghetto or just chusma, they tend to have a little bit more of a chusma attitude. That doesn't mean that every child of Yemaya is going to be like so. But that means that you probably can get ghetto or you will get very defensive. The other thing is also your breast. I don't know exactly how big your breasts are, but they seem to have a good size. Daughters of Yemaya tend to have large, like good size to very large breasts. The other thing is maternity. Like, I don't know how maternal you might be, but maternity is very important. And the other part will be gaining weight. Children of Yemaya tend to get, female children of Yemaya tend to get a little robust as the years go by, but that's just natural also on them. You'll see that they just gain like boobs and just thick thighs or thick waist or whatever. It's just very natural for children of, or for daughters of Yemaya in specific,
Mhm.
so I don't know what you may exhibit later on, or if you may have any kids now or later, but it'll definitely, something will come out. Something will come out. It'll be either your attitude, or it'll be your physicality, or it'll be just your maternal instinct towards everybody around. Something like that will come out, and it's either already been exhibited or it'll enhance itself once you crown.
Okay. Well, that's all really interesting. It's fascinating. The religion, it doesn't exist only in the spiritual realm. It seems very much connected to the material world as well. So that's very fascinating.
Children of Yamaya are also very hard workers. So see, now you're also working on your doctorate, so that may come out on you instead of other things. So you may just be more, throw yourself more into work, or be more of an educator or something like that. So I don't know. Like, I don't really know, but you can tell, you will see. Look at yourself and analyze yourself, and then analyze other people around you that are also children of Yemaya, and then you'll notice that you do have characteristics that will match with them a lot more than with other people too. You'll relate to them a lot more. But after crowning, I can assure you for sure, I can assure you that's just been my experience or my whatever, that after crowning you really do see, like, or at least after the head has been marked, even not so much after, like after you know that this person is a child of whomever, you're like, okay, now I really see this, and then now I really see that happens all the time,
Mhm.
attitude wise, like personality wise.
So in that same vein, would you say that the mind exists on an individual level, or are we just kind of like a blank canvas and we're more receptive to external forces?
Okay, so I honestly feel when it comes to the mind, this is also my personal esoteric understanding, I do feel like there's just one mind, and that is just the mind. I feel like the mind itself, then we have what we call the overall human consciousness, and then
Mhm.
there's little things that leaks that come out of the main mind, and that creates our mind as little portions still attached to the bigger mind. So, think of a bubble and it's just coming out. And each of those things is still connected, but we as human beings are so um compacted in our body, or so, and so we can only see one thing. But I do feel like that is, again, it's like I feel like our consciousness is like the end of the little funnel of the mind. So if this is like the thing of the mind, and then it has like a little thing coming out, this is our consciousness all the way at the bottom here. So we're still
Mhm.
connected to the bigger part, but we're just looking at everything from a very small under, which is our eyes. So our
Mhm.
eyes will be the end of the funnel of the mind behind us. Am I making any sense?
Yeah, well, I wanted to. Would you say that like collective bigger part, is that the Ori, or the little funnel? Is that where? How would you characterize the Ori?
I
That's
think
more the individual,
the
or
Ori will be in the funnel. I think Ori will be us, okay, versus Orisha and Irumole, which would be the collective unconsciousness of,
okay,
everything.
that makes more sense. So when is a person assigned their patron Orisha, and how do they discover who their patron Orisha is? I know for me it was through Mano Daruna. But is the
Yeah, no,
Orisha assigned at that point or at birth?
that depends again from the house. It'll either be through Orula or it'll be through the shells of the godparents Orisha. It depends on the house, how the house does it. Whichever way it's fine. Obviously, you will have people that are Ifa-centric and they'll say that only Orula can do it. And you'll have other people like myself that will say that your Alabatori is the one who gets to do it. But like if you come to me, for example, you come to me with Mano Orula done and you're already marked as a daughter of Yamaya, I will sit there and I will question you as to your ceremony and the people that gave you your stuff and whatever. And as long as everything is legitimate, then I will respect it and that's fine. You stay. That's me. Other people may still want to remark with their Orisha and whatnot, and other people may not care at all for nothing, So it just depends on the house and the person itself running that house.
So, but at what point is the person, because let's say people who are not part of this faith, are they still taken care of or assigned a patron Orisha at birth, or?
Everybody, yeah, no, at birth, the religious belief is yes, you already have your mother and your father and all that stuff. It's just your crowning entity, your alapatori, is just determined through divination at some point in your lifetime, whenever it was that you sat at the mat or whatever, that's when it got determined. But that had already been determined when you came into the earth. It had been determined spiritually, it just hadn't been determined for humans.
Mhm.
So prior to you having your reading, you were already a daughter of Yemaya. It was just up in the air versus now it's like affirmative that it's like, okay, well, she's a daughter of Yemaya. Like for us to recognize it from the reading, but when the human comes to earth, they already are assigned their alabatori, the secondary parent, and any type of spirit guides and entities and things that walk with them and all that stuff. It's just as you then start to explore that person's spiritual cord, and then you figure all that stuff out as time passes and as they get into the religion. So even somebody who might be Muslim, to us, they still are, obviously they're a child of so and so. We just don't know who that person belongs to because they don't practice the faith. But when they come over, then they'll have their readings and their things, and then it'll be determined.
And then
But
it'll be
that has
determined.
already been picked. Our belief is that your consciousness goes to in heaven before coming down to earth. You go to the house of Ayala, and Ayala is the one that you speak to. And Ayala, you tell Ayala what your experiences you want to have when you come down to earth. What is it that you need to learn? And then Ayala makes a head for you, and you enter the head. Thus, you become aware. That's your ori that you pick at that point, and then that becomes your body, which is already packed up with your experiences that you have to break your leg at this age because whatever, or
Mhm.
you have to win the lottery at this age, or you have to go through. There are major things in life that they might be shifted, but that they have to happen for the
Mhm.
person. You might get
Okay.
them sooner, you might get them later, but you have
Okay.
to
No,
get them.
that's a good explanation. Thank you. This next question is, I guess, more based on the psychological realm. How do practitioners in this tradition approach situations in which the person is experiencing problematic behaviors or mental problems?
Okay, number one, it's always through divination and consulting to the oracle to see what the person can do, like what bowl, what cleansings, what entity they can go to, etc. Okay. Number two is the actual working itself, which is the actual cleansing. Okay. Even if you don't consult the oracle, for example. So at all, I'm sorry, my cat is like acting
Oh,
silly. So that would be like, for example, if you're feeling bad or you're feeling down, and you know that, we may do things like rogating of the head, or like cleanse your head with bread, or cleanse your head with coconut water, or give yourself a white bath and dress in white, and things like that that are meant to help the person feel better when they are not. Okay, it's also bringing things, spiritual things, like bringing your alagbatori down to the floor and lighting two candles to them, or putting fresh water to the Orisha to refreshing your mind, etc. So people may take different approaches on what to do. So it may be determined by divination as to what you should do, and or it may be determined by your own personal ache, like I really feel like I need to do this, I need to dress in white, or I need to do whatever. And or the main part also is just having normal therapy and stuff like that. The spiritual, I always tell people, like, the spiritual is going to help you, but I'm not a therapist. I'm
mhm.
not a psychiatrist or any of that stuff. So like, there's only so much advices I can give someone before I'm like, oh, you need to go see someone else. Because, if you do need some medication or something, then go take your medication too. As an Olocha, we are humans, and we get sick. So we need to have whatever medication or whatever that only a doctor can give, or somebody else. So you have to be practical. Not everything is just religious. That's a fine line between being religious and fanatical, and that happens in every religion. So just be religious, but you gotta be practical so you don't become fanatical. Okay. But mentally and things, people will definitely approach it in different ways depending on what it is that you're feeling. Because if you're just depressed, then you may just take a white bath, or dress in white, or not sleep in the dark. You may do different things like that. But if it's something really, really dramatic, like the whole family passed away, or something dramatic, or the person has been raped or something, then obviously, yeah, you may do a bowl and cleanse yourself with on top of a wound to make yourself stronger. You may do all stuff, but you still need to go see a psychiatrist, or you may need. So you have to always take the spiritual with the physical and be okay with that.
Well, and I'm finding as working on the other side as a psychotherapist, that there's a lot of times where that we have to give respect to the spiritual, because it feels like there's times where, yes, there's psychological factors going on, but I've had several clients that the nature of what they're experiencing is spiritual in nature. That psychology is limited in what they can do. That being said, how do you describe the influence of other spiritual forces on a person's mind? Because I know that Santeria is very closely tied to Espiritismo and other practices. And even yourself, you mentioned that you're interested or involved in other like esoteric practices.
I think everybody, what I have learned so far from the astral and the occult side is people should really just respect everything and not take everything so lightly. Okay. So nowadays, everybody's a witch. Everybody reads tarot. Everybody wants to do chakra alignments. Everybody wants to do everything. Okay. They get the set of cards today, and a week later, they're on Instagram promoting that they're doing tarot readings. And that just bothers the hell out of me. And the same thing happens all the time with people practicing Goetia, demonology and this and that. It's like, girl, you just got your first book today, and 2 weeks later you're summoning the 17th prince of hell, whatever. Like, I feel like a lot of times when it comes to the occult and the mind, like a lot of people really don't take the time to like really learn your ABCs, and they just automatically want to jump to the S for spells and the P for whatever the fuck, and
Mhm.
that's what happens a lot of times, that people want to run before they even crawl. Okay. And I feel like then that's what creates that people mix, and not everything that you mix is good. Okay. It's the same thing as cooking. You can get very creative on how you make your pasta, but if you add charcoal to your pasta, there's no matter what you do, it's not going to taste good. Okay, and that's what happens with the spiritual also. It's okay for you to practice Orisha and for you to practice different things as long as you keep them accordingly and are not bouncing off from one tradition to the other, from one entity to the other, you know, without any comprehension of what you're doing, or just because you think that that's going to look good or match or whatever, because certain things, just because they look good does not mean that they're going to match spiritually. The energy of the entities are not going to match. Okay. I feel like then what happens is also what I call spiritual fever, which I had spiritual fever in my 20s, especially in my early 20s. What is spiritual fever, girl? It means that you just want to be in everything, doing everything, and know everything about everything, and everybody wants to do everything. Everything is spiritual fever, okay? It happened to me too, and I understand it when I see and I recognize it in other people. Okay, that's my term. Give me credit for spiritual fever, okay?
I will. I will.
Okay, because that happens all the time. It's like I want to be in Santeria and I want to be in Wicca and I want to be 21 divisions. I want to do Kimbanda and I want to do Palo now and I'm going to do this. It happens to everybody, and that happens a lot here in the States because it's such an influx of everything. It's like you want to be a Buddhist and you want to be everything, you know, and that happens a lot of times here. And then what I feel that happens there is that people don't take the time to really get to like understand one thing before they move on to the next. Okay, and then that may create disrespect between certain entities because certain orishas maybe are more cool than other entities. For example, like if you're a Wiccan person, a Wiccan witch, who wants to call or tune to your circle, I think that's perfectly fine in your ritual. Like, okay, go ahead and call Ochun because, okay, now there's Wiccan people that do a lot of ritual skyclad, which means naked. So if you're doing a skyclad ritual for whatever and you're calling on Ochun, that's okay. But if you're doing a skyclad ritual calling on Yewa, that is completely inappropriate for her, you know, and because her colors are pink, that's exactly an example that I've given out because it's exactly something that happened one time. Lady, a Wiccan lady, that she liked Yewa, she loved Yewa because the color is pink and her favorite color is pink, and said that, girl, you're a Wiccan person naked in a circle calling on Yewa, who is a complete opposite, that is such a severe Ocha with her color is pink, but she lives inside of the grave and she represents the composition, and she absolutely dislikes any type of nudity. So like, why would you do, like, how would you, you know, that type of stuff is just silly, and things like that happen. And then some people do want to jump over and they think that just, and that's a neo-pagan mentality. It's like, oh, if I like it in my heart, it must be good. No, girl, just because you like it in your heart does not mean it's good for you. Okay, because you might like to get drunk every night, that doesn't mean that it's good for you. And that's what happens. And people then get entities attached to them that you called on yourself, that you didn't know what you were calling or how to deal with that. And then those things are still coming onto you, and then you keep calling on more entities. That's the other thing too. I think, I do believe like one pantheon is more than enough. Okay, so like if you like the Egyptian pantheon, like call on every single Egyptian deity there is by all means, and you keep yourself within that, or call on every single Orisha that there is, or whatever, but you can't be mixing one with the other because that's what creates issues. And again, it's people's understanding of them trying to be in every religion at every time. Okay, like you should be a little more careful with the 21 divisions and the Haitian voodoo and the Kimbanda and the Palo and the whatever and all that stuff, and keeping those things separate so that none of them are influencing the other. So today you do something Palo related and you're done with it. And then tomorrow you do something Hindu related and you're done with it. And then the next, like that, I'm okay with. And I feel that that creates a slightly better balance than people calling on all sorts of entities. Because at the end of the day, it has happened, for example, with the case of Santa Muerte. There have been a lot of people who get Santa Muerte and then they put it by the Egun shrine or by the Bóveda, or they want to feed a rooster or whatever over Santa Muerte. And like people just come up with the weirdest of things sometimes. And then it's like, it's your fault that you called on such a thing and that such a thing is even happening. And people don't realize how it is their fault because they have low lack of or spiritual understanding and the occult understanding. And people, again, it's people just come seeking a lot of power, and that is their spiritual fever. There's a lot of people that want to just do things, they just want to see things, they want to feel things. And then that's when you end up with people with possessions and people going crazy and people acting all sorts of ways and their life getting all messed up and losing the job and losing the wife. And then it's like, it's your own fault because you're calling things that you shouldn't even be calling on, that you don't even comprehend. At least take the time to read more, to understand the entity more before you begin to work with the entity.
Because I've heard of that more so with Palo, where people who practice that religion over a long period of time, especially if they're working with certain kind of spirits like the Indoki, that it starts to wear down at them. And I have heard of cases that they lose their mind essentially. They kind of like fall into that abyss. Would you say that that's the case also in Santeria, of like, if you're not careful working with certain entities, that they can overpower you mentally, or that they can cause?
No, honey, no, because Orisha is not the same thing as spirit, okay? And Orisha are entities created by God, are just here to help humans. Orisha is something that we're meant to be interacting with. Okay, versus in Palo, they are using spirits of the dead, people that they are making pacts with. Now, the difference here is, honestly, again, we go back to the power. A lot of people use Palo for power, for domination, for attacks, for just to fucking their job. They just want to go out fighting witch wars. They just want, that's what they use Palo for. And that type of, if you continuously use that, and what you're supposed to be using that spirit for is for your own benefit. You're supposed to have that spirit as your friend, helps you, not as your slave. And that's what a lot of paleros do, is that they treat that spirit as a slave. They'll kick the pot, they'll do this, they'll do, and that spirit eventually will revolt against the person. If I treat you bad all the time, eventually you're going to like slap me in the face. It's the same thing that happens with the spirit. It's the same thing happens in slavery. Somebody, eventually they're gonna, whomever is being oppressed, eventually is going to revolt. Now, if it's a spirit revolting against you, obviously a spirit is non-corporal and it'll mess you up a lot quicker and a lot easier and in many other ways than a human can, you know? And that's what happens with those people a lot of times, is that they push that spirit so much constantly to the breaking point that this, and then they also a lot of times they overfeed. That's another bad thing of the religion too. It's like the overfeeding and the constant blood and the constant, like, girl, chill with the blood, you know. That also makes that type of spirit very thirsty, and eventually it's like, okay, you haven't given me anything in 2 weeks, so you know what, I'm just gonna eat your dog. And then eventually it's like, you know, you break your head to drink your blood, and then that's what happens a lot of times with those entities. However, that just shows bad character on the palero, okay? And that is a bad reputation that they have developed for a long time, and they still have to this day, because it is exactly the truth, is that a lot of paleros, not every single palero, but a lot of paleros are just simply known for being dramatic and being constantly in conflict with people and constantly in witch wars, and then constantly walking around with a bag of negativity. So I don't understand how that even keeps happening. Like, when they know, when you know, and there's all these things, like, why do people constantly choose that over and over again? Because I have nothing against Palo, but I am very prejudiced against Palo too, because I don't practice Palo. So I have nothing against it. However, I am prejudiced towards it, that I'm like, I have nothing, I don't do Palo, nor do I care to do Palo, nor am I ever going to, for that type of reason too. And I feel it's just mistreatment of the spiritual forces. It's what most of them are guilty of. Not every palero. Some paleros I do feel are very proper with their spirits, but the majority are not.
But I was gonna say, even in Santeria, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's the concept too of like espíritu obsesore. Would you say that plays a
That's
factor
from
at all?
Espiritismo. No, that's from Espiritismo. Santeria, we gotta just make sure that we get the classification correctly. Orisha-wise, Orisha is always going to be beneficial for the person. Espiritismo, palo, all that stuff may vary. Okay, in espiritismo, you may have espíritus oscuros o espíritus sin luz, muertos negros, lo que sea, you know, stuff like that, which are definitely negative entities.
Mm-hmm.
Which you may be just walking down the supermarket one day and an entity attach itself to you, you know, that, or it may be sent, or it may be whatever by someone. And then espiritismo and all that stuff, you may then do a misa, it may come out in the misa, somebody else, eso se llama, it's not recogimiento, I forgot what it's called right now. I'll tell you as soon as I remember. Que cuando, when you have like a dark spirit and then we do the misa and then somebody passes at the dark spirit to like, so the dark spirit can speak and say whatever they need to say. And then another espiritista removes that spirit to like send it back. I forgot what it's called right now.
In your house, that's treated specific, or that this is specific to espiritismo. This is not part of the Santeria belief system.
No. Okay. No. However, but for example, if you do have a spirit, you can go to an Orisha to help you take the spirit off, you know. So like we may consult the Logun also, and maybe we have to do an ebo. Maybe you come already and I already have something in my head as to like, let's go to this one and do this and do that and whatnot, because Orisha is always going to be considered stronger than a spirit, just by Ache and just by mandated by God. Orisha is always going to be stronger one way or the other than just a regular spirit, you know.
Well, thank you for the clarification.
No,
Thank you for the clarification, because I know a lot of people that I've been speaking to, it's all kind of like mixed together. So it's good to make that distinction that, yeah, there's just different practices. The last question I wanted to ask about was the rogación de la cabeza. How would you describe this ceremony, and why is it done, and what are the effects of having it done?
That's called ebori. Ebori is the correct word, E-B-O-R-I, ebori. Okay, and that means ebo of the head. Ebo ori is what that means. Ebori are prayers to the head and feeding to the inner spirit to give strength to the inner self. Okay, so ebori is a way for you to calm yourself down. It's a way for you to think better. It's a way for you to reinforce just your mental fortitude overall, and it is a way to give ache to the person internally to be able to deal with whatever is going on in life. Okay, so the point of ebori and rogación de cabeza is to calm the person so you can think better. It's to allow the person to see another option for you to not be for you to be more open-minded, or just more optimistic with things. Is to create a mental shift inside the person. Ebori is extremely, extremely important. And there are different types of ebori also. Okay, there's regular ebori, there's ebori sodide, there's ebori elesen ocha, there's kariocha ebori, there are reception Orisha ebori. For the most part, it'll all have the same ingredients, which is, you know, the shredded coconut and the honey and all that other stuff, but it may be done slightly different. There's also ebori, that rogación de cabeza, when you sit down and you do a rogación de cabeza, that is done, you know, it starts on the head and then you put things all over from the head to the feet. That is like a full rogación de cabeza. Then you can have rogación de cabeza directa, which goes straight to the head. And then you can have rogación de sodide, which goes from the feet up to the head instead of the head down to the feet. And that is when the person is really low, or is really like the person has hit rock bottom, or they feel really, really low, to like levantarlo, to lift them up. Then the rogación is started from the feet up to the head to lift them up, instead of from the head down to the feet to calm them down, because usually people have rotations of the head. It's also times that you're very stressed out, or times that you just cannot think straight, or something is going on around you besides religious ceremonies, because the body
Mhm.
is part of religious ceremonies. For the most part, if you're not having a religious ceremony, it's usually when you're stressed out or you just want to connect a little further. However, body is a good practice, just a spiritual hygiene to be done like every month, every 2 months, every 6 months or so. It's good to just cleanse your head. Even if you don't do a full body and just pour coconut water over your head, or if it's something as simple as putting a Siempre Viva leaf on your head, or a little bit of cocoa butter with cotton, and then put that on your head. Because also, the priesthood will influence that type of stuff, okay? Because, for example, right now you're not crowned. So a body for you would have to probably be done by your elder, and chances are you're not going to, you may pour some coconut water over your head, but some other person may not even do that, okay? Versus me, that I may just go outside and grab a thing and just do a prayer or whatever and put it, and I'm good. But it's also because of priesthood and how comfortable I feel with certain things versus a new beginner, that they only might get their head rotated once a year when they go see the Godfather, and they have to have the full-blown ritual. They don't know anything about that, they've never seen or whatever. And then I may just go really quick and prepare this stuff and just put it on my head and call it a day and move forward, because of my understanding and because of whatever. So it's also the level, the comfortability and the level of the person that needs the rogation done, and how the rogation is going to be done for them. But it should be a practice done often or regularly by all practitioners.
So more than anything, you recommend that it should be done for spiritual maintenance. But let's say somebody comes in and they're feeling depressed, or they're describing symptoms of depression or anxiety. If we do a divination and it doesn't come up that there's something more pressing besides the OD just being maybe too hot, is that something that you might recommend to help cool the person's head,
Yeah.
to kind of balance them?
Yeah. At any point that an individual is feeling any type of way besides good, you can definitely, even if it doesn't come out in it, and even if we don't talk about it in the divination, you can still assign a rogation of the head. Okay, at any point that the person is feeling down, you should definitely consider, especially if the person is not crowned. Okay, you should consider a rogation of the head. And if they already have their head marked, then a borielese, that ocha, should then be done to help lift the person back up, or at least help them somehow energetically to feel better, or think better.
Well, thank you very much. These were really great responses and extremely helpful for not only for me personally, but for the studies. I really appreciate your time. As far as getting in contact with your godchildren, should I send you an email? Would you prefer I message you through Instagram?
I am going to message both of them and let them know about you. And then, do I have your number, or what do I have here through Instagram? Or I can give them your Instagram.
I can give you my phone number. You want me to give it to you now, or send it to you?
Send me your phone number on Instagram, and I will definitely let them know. And I'll give them your phone number, and I'll send them your Instagram information also, just in case. And I'll send you, then once I confirm with them, I'll send you their stuff too. And then you can reach out to them, they can reach out to you. But I'm sure that both of them will be more than willing to help you out. And those are two people that I think of. I mean, you speak Spanish, because I can also put, right? Because I can also put you in contact with my padrino and whomever, and his husband and stuff. Pancho has 53 years of Ocha, if you would like to speak to him and interview him. And he's a really, really nice and knowledgeable, very soft-spoken individual, really nice. So I can put you in contact with a few people.
I would really appreciate that. And thank you so much for
Totally.
taking your time. I was so excited when you responded back because, like I said, I've been watching your videos for a while. So I was like, I hope he responds back. So
Thank
you were
you.
my
No, it's been
my
an
first
honor.
choice.
Thank you. No, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
All right,
I'm
honey.
looking
I'm
forward to
gonna,
reading your book.
yes, please do. And just tell me whatever you think. Please do not judge me. I am not a academic individual, okay?
No, but I have utmost respect. I have learned so much from watching your videos. So it's really an honor to get a chance to speak to you one-on-one and to be able to ask you all these questions. So thank you for making the time to speak with
Oh,
me. And
you're welcome, honey. Just let me know and keep me posted with your report and stuff when it comes out. I would love to see it all and read it.
absolutely. Thank you so
Possible.
much. Take
All right,
care.
honey. Okay, I'll be in contact with you, okay? I'll let them know.
Wonderful. Thank you.